Leon, do you know what concerns me right now?
Why?
Like a year ago, basically the whole world had to come to really fast decisions to keep the boat afloat without planning.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. I mean, like, it was all adrenaline, no bureaucracy, no red tape. We were able to get everything done right away. I actually kind of wish that, it was like that all the time because we could, get so much more done.
But it's not really good, right? Not really good.
I'm sure it'll work itself out eventually.
I'm not so sure. So what we need is some data because we don't really know if stuff is performing the way it's supposed to perform.
Okay, so you mean like monitoring?
We work for SolarWinds after all, right?
Okay. So I think the question is that a lot of folks have is, how are we going to monitor all this new stuff we have with all the regular monitoring techniques?
That's a typical question, right? And I think we can show a few things, right?
Okay.
All right.
Where do you want to start?
Follow me. Okay, so one of the things that we see is obviously that everyone put everything into the cloud. So why don't we watch the internet connection to the cloud?
You mean like this?
Yes, this is the right tool. It's NetPath. And right now everything is nice and green, but there's a little bit of the yellow, isn't there?
Yes.
And if we see this, then we can actually go over to the last cluster and get a few more details and see what actually happened there. And there's a lot of yellow. And if we just hover somewhere, we will see that there is, in fact, some minor problems. And we can click for further information here, and we see that there's a packet loss. And that is obviously one of the links that we used for our cloud provider.
Right. Now, the thing is, though, none of this is my gear. So, what am I supposed to do about it? Like, I can't run out and fix any of these devices.
That's right. But you know who can. Just click it, and then we see some information like who owns it and where can I complain right now. And that is important, isn't it? But let's say it is our gear. So here we have a completely different path, and we see a lot of red over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we see also is config change. So if we click config change, then we will actually see the previous and the current configuration. And we need to scroll down a bit and a bit and a bit and a bit. And we will finally see that a static route has been changed, which is a good explanation why something is red, right?
Right. You can't get to where you're supposed to go. So that's good. But it takes me to one of my pet peeves as a systems guy who also has to deal with network stuff, which is that I'm looking at this big configuration, right? And I know I can look at my design like this, like a NetPath, map, or I can even look at it in an Orion map, where it's sort of a logical layout. In fact, I could look at it as a topology map where I can see like one thing connected to another, but nothing tells me how those maps relate back to this big configuration. How do I put those two things together?
Did you check the interface details page by any chance?
I haven't looked at one lately, no.
Give it a try. The information you see there is it's much more useful, and while it doesn't show you all the secrets, it should give you a huge indication of where the trouble is coming from.
So this is just the configuration as it relates to this interface then?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so far so good. But one of the things I hear from customers all the time is, well, you can't monitor my new stuff with your old SNMP. You just can't do that.
That's quite a frustration, right? And it's kind of true, but there are so many more better ways to monitor stuff than just SNMP.
Right. I mean, for example, if you look here, we've got WMI. Okay, so there's all the things that I'm monitoring with WMI. And if I click on this one, just because it's funny, because it has my name on it, and there you can see that we're monitoring this box using WMI and collecting a whole mess of statistics. And then, we can also do things with agent-based monitoring. For example, I'll just pick the first one off the list there. And, there I'm looking at a box that we are monitoring with an agent. It's actually cloud-based.
What is that? How is that pronounced? AWS AMI?
AMI? Just do me a favor. Don't let Corey Quinn hear you pronounce it like that, ever. But yeah, it's, we're collecting stuff with agents. So, it's not like we're just doing SNMP, right?
That's right, but we can do a little bit more. So, for example, there's APIs, and we have for quite a few years now, out-of-the-box support for pretty popular APIs. So, for example, let's have a look at VMware.
Mm-hmm.
Here at VMware, we see loads of information coming right from the vCenter, and we use VMware's actual API for that. And we see traditional polling information here in the middle, and at the right-hand side of the screen, we even see messages, asynchronous messages, which are also coming from the vCenter using the API.
Yeah, and not only VMware, but also Hyper-V and Nutanix.
Absolutely. But also, we can go to a different vendor. Basically, we see load balancing here. And the load balancing landscape can be quite a complicated thing. And we do have out-of-the-box support for those guys too. And it's quite extensive and shows lots of information with just a few mouse clicks.
So so we're using APIs. That's good.
But it gets really interesting when we start adding additional external APIs into our system. And that's what we do here.
So we're custom API monitoring?
Custom API monitoring. So in our example, which we see right here on the screen, we can use anything that is REST compatible. And in our example here, we just sent an HTTP GET request, and we could click actually the shiny button over there and see what happens next. So we retrieve information from the node, and this is basically live. Right? We can request any information while you add the node and have a play with it, and it's still pretty straightforward.
So you can get anything that has an API interface, which I mean, at this point, Python, Office 365, basically everything.
Anything. And that is far beyond traditional SNMP.
So I think we have time for one more thing. And this is something that's gotten a lot of attention since the beginning of the pandemic.
The unacceptable fact that I can't go to the beer garden.
No, I was going to talk about VPNs.
Yeah, okay, that's acceptable too.
Okay, all right. So before 2020, a lot of companies only had a few VPN connections to worry about, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much something for the chosen few, C-levels or road warriors who went outside to customers, who really needed access to resources inside the company. Now that has changed a tiny bit, and everyone needs to access resources inside the company. So what many people do is they just increase their VPN capacities, new licenses, new hardware, whatever, and copy-pasted configurations.
And without ever looking or being able to look at how those copy-pasted configurations were working for these new users, right?
That's absolutely right. And what we see here in the background already is basically a firewall connection and showing VPN connections. And the screen we are on at right now is really, really valuable because it shows currently connected users. And as we probably both know by our own experience, if a user isn't connected, can't access resources, they call IT. Okay. So, and it's one of the tasks of IT to prove that, hey, Mr. What is the name over there? Monroe, you are not connected right now to VPN. So that is a pretty good explanation why a resource is not accessible.
Right, exactly. So when somebody says the internet's down, it's like, no, you're okay.
I think it should now be obvious why we just can't play by the ear and need data to make sure that everything works the way the business needs it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy enough if you have the right tools.
Okay. I'm glad you finally agree. By the way, who's this Corey Quinn?
He's a loud, obnoxious American.
Like all of you?